I just wrapped up my blind playthrough of Saros, and honestly, it is an absolute masterclass in atmosphere. Mechanically, it delivers that brutal, uncompromising challenge that forces you to earn every single victory. But what truly sets it apart is its oppressive world building. The game wraps you in this suffocating cosmic dread, using a sickly, haunting palette and terrifyingly geometric shape language that stays with you long after you turn the console off. For me, it's a solid 9 out of 10, a must play if you love high difficulty horror. As an artist, the boss design and oppressive color theme really captured my imagination. Dark fantasy games thrive on storytelling through their bosses. In Saros, we encounter a brilliant courtly ecosystem: a king, a priestess, a prophet, and a consort. I wanted to continue in that line of courtly hierarchy and come up with a boss using the same visual language. Today, we are designing that missing piece, a Lost Knight character that fits seamlessly into the game's theme. But we aren't just making fan art. We're going to deconstruct the visual DNA of the game, break down the core design theory, and then twist it enough to drag this entity directly into the Infernal Realm of my own universe, the Astral Reliquary. To build a boss that feels authentic, you have to break down the game's specific shape language and visual hierarchy. So looking at the bosses, we see a lot of tentacles. No, seriously, many of the bosses have tentacles or tendrils. One of the bosses is straight up so Cthulhu-esque, I thought his name was going to pop up. That is a great visual tool to help give things that eldritch twist, so I knew our boss had to have them. Many of the bosses have multiple limbs, which is a great way to give cosmic entities a more godlike appearance. I missed the mark on this one, as you will see in the design I chose from our thumbnails. I did not add extra arms, and I'm kind of kicking myself for not doing it. I could add them. Do you guys think I should add an extra set of arms? Let me know in the comments below. One of the key design aspects of the boss is sharp, angular, bony shapes, especially on the priestess. She has tails that have a lot of this, and I incorporated that bone look into the design of our knight. I did some sketches of the bosses before I jumped into the thumbnailing process. In our thumbnails, I tried to work with just pseudo silhouettes so that I wasn't forcing my will too much and looking for something original. One theme I knew I wanted to incorporate was the eclipse. It's in every boss in some way or another, and I felt like this was an integral design aspect. I finally settled on an imposing stance of a figure with a greatsword. I took this thumbnail and translated it into our 16x20 canvas. I went fairly large with this to help convey that larger oppressive figure. When I approach a new canvas, I don't look at it as just an illustration. I look at it as a problem that needs solving. What colors will define the mood? Which techniques will build a form? How will the layers interact? I almost feel like Sherlock Holmes in his mind palace, entirely visualizing the sequence, the chemistry, and the life cycle of the painting before a single brushstroke even hits the surface. For the color theory, I chose a palette of deep oranges, rich earth browns, and soap blacks. Those oranges and browns really pulled me into the game, and I wanted to make sure I stayed true to that oppressive, fiery eclipse vibe. I paint using a mix of acrylics and water-soluble oils, starting with broad washes of color to completely lock in the theme. For this piece, I'm using a highly restricted, monochromatic, and analogous color palette, meaning we're sticking strictly to one color family and its closest neighbors on the wheel. Limiting your palette like this forces you to master your values, keeping the entire composition completely harmonious while pulling an unbelievable amount of depth out of the shadows. I use several layers of acrylic, letting the first layer dry before applying a second layer that helps build up the values more. Then it's time to hit the water-soluble oils. I switched to the water mixable oils recently so I could cut out the chemicals involved in oil paints. I can't tell the difference between the two honestly, and my brush cleanup is so much easier. When it's time to transition to oils, I follow a strict thin over thick rule. For the initial oil layers, I thin my paint with water mixable fast drying medium by Winsor Newton, which beautifully drops the viscosity while speeding up my working time. As I move across the canvas, those early sections begin to turn tacky. That tackiness is the perfect sweet spot. It creates a fantastic drag on the brush, allowing me to lay thicker, opaque paint right over the top and build up intense light and physical texture. One thing I do that I probably shouldn't do is I usually work the figure first and then cut it in the background. Not always, but on this piece that's totally what I did. I do like this because then I can make sure that silhouette reads clear. Something great about the fast drying medium is just about 24 hours later, I am able to adjust values with glazes as the layers below have dried enough. I try not to build the paint too thick in areas I know will need glazes of color or value changes, so as to avoid the painting getting muddy. I leave those thicker layers till the very end. And here he is, our Eclipse Knight. Cross the threshold into the ash-choked courts of the Infernal Realm, where loyalty does not die with the flesh, it is merely reforged. Behold the Knight of the Eclipse. Once a proud champion of a forgotten court, this silent colossus now stands as an eternal guardian. Its armor has melted into its very marrow, a cage of blackened iron binding a soul of perpetual flame. The twin eclipses burning within its hollow frame do not grind sight. They are a vacuum of light, a binding mechanism keeping the entity tethered to its post. It holds the gate not by command, but by the sheer crushing weight of its eternal damnation. Stealing shape language from the games that inspire you is one of the best ways to fuel your own world building. It forces you to think like a designer, analyze layout, and bring something entirely fresh back to your own canvas. The Night of the Eclipse is officially locked into the lore of the Astral Reliquary. If you want to see the live streams where we break down game design and brainstorm these concepts in real time, make sure to subscribe and watch the next broadcast. Let me know in the comments what game world we should dissect next. Until next time, watch out for the shadows of the eclipse.